Health, yeah. This isn't your average health talk. We're asking those awkward questions for you. We're digging into the health, wellness, and medical news that matters to you. We're cutting through the clickbait with facts you can trust, from uncomfortable questions to breakthrough science. It's a dose of real news you can use. This is Health Yeah with Monica Robbins, your prescription for life.
Doctors, thank you so much for joining us. I know this is a very, very big day, but I want to introduce you first. So, Dr. Nissen, let me start with you. Explain to everyone who you are and what you do.
So I'm Dr. Steve Nissen, and I'm the Chief Academic Officer of the Heart, Vascular, and Thoracic Institute at the Cleveland Clinic.
And Dr. Laffin, explain to everyone who you are and what you do.
I'm a preventive cardiologist and a cardiovascular clinical trialist at the Cleveland Clinic.
Now, most people may not be familiar with what CRISPR is, but this is a huge phase 1 trial. Fill everyone in as to what was discovered.
So let me kind of give you the top line view here. There is a gene called ANGPTL3 that's involved in many aspects of cholesterol metabolism. And this study, which is an early study, was designed to be able to actually turn off that gene. And by turning off that gene, as you're going to hear more about from Dr. Laffin, there were very favorable effects on cholesterol. I'm going to ask Dr. Laffin now to walk you through the study and maybe talk to you about why we targeted ANGPTL3 and what does this mean down the road for patients. So, Dr. Laffin, please take it away.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Nissen. We're really excited about this study. So this was a first-in-human phase 1 study of 15 participants with abnormal cholesterol, really. What we know is that targeting ANGPTL3, which is the gene, can have important impact on cholesterol levels and really lowering them. How do we know this? Well, large-scale studies looking at genetic data from patients show that individuals that are born with a loss of function mutation, meaning that gene, ANGPTL3, doesn't work, they have lifelong low levels of LDL cholesterol, lifelong low levels of triglycerides, and most importantly, a lifetime lower risk of cardiovascular disease without any apparent harmful effects. So what this technology really aims to do, or this drug, is turn off that gene permanently to lower cholesterol levels and theoretically reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. Now, this study involved 15 participants at 6 sites in the United Kingdom, in Australia, and in New Zealand. And it was a single ascending dose study, meaning we gave patients a very low dose to start, saw what it was, and then subsequent patients a higher dose, and 5 doses total were studied. And at the top dose, which was 0.8 milligrams per kilogram, we saw a 55% reduction on average in triglycerides and almost 50% in LDL cholesterol, which is really remarkable given that a lot of therapies these days, no therapies concomitantly lower LDL and triglycerides that much.
And importantly, it's permanent. Once the gene is edited, this is a one and done treatment. And, this is really quite revolutionary because the alternative is to take medication every day or inject it every week or two for the rest of your life for these high levels of cholesterol or triglycerides. But when you edit the gene, you do it once. And then these people for the rest of their lives have much lower levels. So this is how CRISPR is revolutionizing medicine. Dr. Laffin, perhaps you could maybe give a little more detail about the patients, the study, how well tolerated was this therapy? Obviously, people want to know, is it safe? And we did study that, of course.
Exactly, we did. The primary objective in most first-in-human studies is to assess safety. And the most important take-home point is that there were no serious adverse events related to the drug itself, which is called CTX310. There was 3 patients with what we call an infusion-related reaction. So around the time of the infusion, which is given intravenously over about a 1.5 to 4 hour period. Some people had a little bit of nausea, etc. They got a repeat of some antiemetics, so nausea pills. But everyone completed the treatment, which is important. One patient who had an elevation in their liver function tests at baseline had a transient small elevation in their liver function tests that resolved within a couple weeks of therapy. And so it was very well tolerated in general with this. Now, this was 15 participants total, and to get enrolled, you had to be on really refractory to current medical therapy. So the majority of patients were on, multiple other cholesterol-lowering medicines, statins, a drug called ezetimibe, and then other injectable medicines as well.
Yeah.
So what's next for the next phase of this? When will that begin? And will any of the studies come to the US?
Well, we concluded, based on this study, that the safety and efficacy were outstanding, and that it was suitable to then pivot to doing a phase 2 study, which is the next phase in drug development. And it is the intention to bring that to the United States. So we are very close to being able to start enrolling patients in the US. And of course, that's important because, we are US-based physicians, and we have obviously many people with this disorder. I also wanted to amplify a little bit on what Dr. Laffin said. We can lower in most people LDL cholesterol, but not in every patient. Some people, you give everything we have and you just can't get their levels down. And those are good candidates for this. But we really don't have good therapies for high triglycerides, which many people have. And it's really quite extraordinary to have a single therapy that can affect both high cholesterol and high triglycerides, and to affect those levels permanently.
Are these typically patients who, for whatever reason, genetics, but this is the patient who eats correctly all the time, perhaps runs marathons, is the picture of health, but yet genetically has no other reason, but still has high cholesterol and high triglycerides?
I think you're spot on, Monica, there is that we know that the majority of cholesterol, particularly LDL cholesterol and triglycerides, about 70-75% of that is determined by genetics. So people can eat like rabbits and, exercise daily, and it's going to improve their cholesterol. There's no question. But these are individuals who still can't get to the targets we need them to be to reduce their cardiovascular risk, right? And that's why one of these therapies is important, to study further. There's certain drugs out there that are pills once a day that we can take, statins widely available. But importantly, we know that up to 50% of people by a year after their statin prescription stop taking it, which is really a shocking statistic, but we do see that.
The reason that happens, I think, is that having a high cholesterol or high triglycerides doesn't hurt. If you have, arthritis and you get a medicine that makes you feel better, you're going to keep taking it. But if you have something that doesn't cause any symptoms, a high blood level of cholesterol, people get tired of it and they stop. And, particularly when it's a therapy you have to take day after day, year after year, for the rest of your life. And so we think that eventually there will be people who would prefer to have a single one and done therapy, have the problem taken care of, and not have to take pills or injections forever.
I know we're in the infant stages of this research, but I'm just going to shoot what I know everybody is wondering. How long do you anticipate getting to phase 2, getting through phase 3, and potentially, if this is what you all hope it is, how long before this could get to patients legally FDA approved?
Well, I mean, assuming safety continues to show what we saw in this first smaller phase 1 study, as well as efficacy, we don't anticipate necessarily the need for large, 10,000 patient outcome trials, as we've seen with other therapies, because this is a one and done. My hope would be sometime, within the next few years, we get in 2 to 3 years, we get into phase 3 studies and see how those plan out. Dr. Nissen, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I do agree with Dr. Laffin that, we can go fast. We told the maker of this drug, company in Boston, smaller company, that we want to go fast. We think that there's good enough evidence for both safety and effectiveness to move as quickly as possible. And now we'll need clearance from the FDA to begin enrolling in the United States. We think we can get that with the safety data that we have now. And, I think we're not too many years away from some of these therapies like this one that involve fixing some of these genes. I have to tell you, having been practicing for a long time, if you'd asked me 15 years ago, if I used to tell people, we can change everything about you, we can give you drugs, we can change your cholesterol. The only thing we can't change is your parents, because we can't change your genes. Well, that was wrong, because now, for the first time in history, we can change people's genes. That's just an extraordinary opportunity. And this is one of a number of targets that we are pursuing to fix genes that cause disease. And that's exciting for patients, and it really is a whole new era.
Do you have any concerns with what's happening within the government right now about the FDA taking its time to get things approved?
So I probably should take that one. I'm a special government employee to advise the FDA, so I have a very strong relationship with them. And there is a lot of turmoil in the government now. Of course, the government is shut down at the moment, but even after it reopens, there have been a lot of changes. A lot of people have left. Some have been fired, but there are a lot of good people at the FDA, and they understand that their mission is to help us help patients. And so I am confident that Dr. Laffin and I, when we go with the sponsor of this study to meet with the FDA, that we can make a compelling case for why they ought to let us go forward. Dr. Laffin, do you think we're going to be able to do that?
I think we will, right? I mean, as you said, there's a lot of good people out there still with the FDA, and this is a high unmet need. We know that this is the next frontier in terms of treatment, and we know that cardiovascular disease is still rampant within the United States, and that's why getting these therapies to patients and the people who need them is really our goal, and should be the goal of the government agencies.
This disease is the leading cause of death in both men and women in the United States and most other developed countries. And so, if you can affect this disease, you can help a lot of people.
Did you ever think you would see the day, Dr. Nissen, when you would be able to switch off a gene and prevent a disease?
Honestly, I never would have guessed. This came out of the blue. Some very good basic science researchers learned how to do this. So, for the public to understand this, what this treatment does is Dr. Laffin has described it as a molecular scissors. It actually cuts the gene, and then when it does that, the gene stops working. And it's about finding the right dose, making sure we can give it safely, but then we can kind of move on and try to bring this forward for the many people who may benefit. This is a very targeted therapy. It targets one gene in one way, and it doesn't do anything else. And so our confidence that when we do this, that we're going to get very good long-term effects without adverse effects makes us particularly eager to bring this forward.
Thank you both for what you're doing, and we will see more about this study if anyone wants to look at it in the New England Journal of Medicine.
Great.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you so much for listening to Health Yeah. Remember, you can watch the video versions of the episodes on YouTube at Monica Robbins' channel. Subscribe and follow my work and never miss an episode at author.com/Monica Robbins. Find me on X and Instagram at Monica Robbins, and I'm also on Blue Sky Social at monicarobbins.bsky.social. And you can follow me on Facebook at Monica Robbins, WKYC in parentheses. Wishing you the best of health, and stay tuned for your next dose of information.
Monica Robbins is not a medical doctor. All content presented in this program is for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health or personal advice. Always seek the guidance of your personal doctor or qualified healthcare professional with any questions regarding your health or medical condition. Thanks for listening to Health Yeah with Monica Robbins from WKYC Studios. Subscribe now so you never miss an update, and find more on everything you heard right here on WKYC.com, the WKYC app, and WKYC Plus on your smart TV.